When someone tells you they're sacrificing for your success, look closely. Sometimes it's just a pretty way of saying they don't want to contribute. That's a lesson I learned too late. When I moved to Lahore for a high-paying software role, I thought I was building a future. And when I asked Eliza, my sister's best friend, the woman I once thought I'd marry, to move in with me, I truly believed we were on the same team. She said all the right things. I'll find a job once we settle, I'll help with rent, we'll be partners in everything. At first things felt promising. She made us dinner the first week, updated her LinkedIn, sent out a few applications. But by the second week she was spending most of her time curled up on the couch watching Netflix, scrolling through her phone like she was waiting for the universe to reward her stillness. Job hunting is so emotionally exhausting, she said once, eyes still glued to the screen. I offered to help. She snapped, not everyone wants to code all day like you. I'm not a machine. So I stopped offering. Still I didn't say much. I'd always been the peacekeeper, between friends and my family, even in arguments that weren't mine. I figured she'd bounce back soon. That maybe she was just adjusting. Then came her new mantra. Emotional support is labor, Zaid. I'm here, I listen to you vent, I care about your goals, that counts for something. It hit me wrong. Not because I didn't believe in emotional labor. I did. But she wasn't doing any of that. She barely asked how my day went. She never stayed up with me during crunch weeks. She didn't even pretend to care when I was working on a product launch that could define my career. If anything, she made it harder, complaining that I wasn't present, and that she was starting to feel neglected. Neglected. While I was paying the bills, cooking half the meals, and doing the laundry because detergents trigger her eczema. Still I swallowed it. Because she was the girl I once told secrets to under the street lamp outside my childhood home. Because she was the only one who stood up for me when my father mocked my career in tech. Because my sister had once said, you two are perfect for each other. So I stayed quiet. I kept working. And I kept hoping she'd wake up one day and realize I wasn't her parent. I was supposed to be her partner. But hope, I've learned, is the kindest way to delay your own freedom. And the worst prison is the one you build with love, while someone else lounges inside, convinced they're royalty. I didn't know it yet, but that was the beginning of my exit. Not with rage, not with words. Just with the quiet realization. She wasn't staying out of devotion. She was staying because I made it easy. I used to fantasize about coming home to warmth, someone who'd ask how my day went, maybe laugh at my tired jokes or just sit next to me in shared silence. Instead, I'd open the door to the same scene every evening. Dirty dishes crusted with leftovers, unfolded laundry spilling from the basket, and Eliza half buried in cushions, eyes glued to a drama series while her thumbs scrolled endlessly through Instagram reels. Sometimes she wouldn't even notice I was home. Hey, I'd say, setting my laptop bag down. She'd murmur, eyes still on the screen. Can you bring some snacks? That was our rhythm. I tried bringing up the job thing gently at first. I asked if she wanted me to look over her resume. I forwarded job postings. I even suggested we sit down on weekends and plan her next steps together. But every time the conversation turned into something else, something warped. You're being capitalist and toxic, she once snapped, slamming her phone down dramatically. Do you only see me as a worker? Is my love not enough? I didn't know how to respond. Her logic wasn't just flawed, it was dressed in the language of self-worth, self-care, and feminist slogans she barely understood. And somehow, I was always the villain. When I confided in my sister, hoping for some kind of support or at least clarity, she only added to the confusion. She's helping your mental health by just being there, she said. She gives you emotional stability. Emotional stability? That woman hadn't asked me a single meaningful question in weeks. I was running on fumes. And now I couldn't even vent without being told I was ungrateful. That's when I started journaling. Not just venting but tracking things. Noticing patterns. How many times I ate alone. How many bills she promised to handle but didn't. How many emotional check-ins I initiated and how few came back my way. I also opened a new bank account under a different digital wallet. Quietly. Systematically. Every time I got a bonus or freelance payment, I slipped a little in there. Then one night, I came home early and paused at the hallway before entering. Eliza was on the phone with someone, her voice light, carefree. He's so obsessed with being a provider, she laughed. I just sit back and vibe. It's like having a live-in servant with health insurance. I didn't feel anger. Just something heavier. Disbelief. Grief. And a strange, sharp clarity. She wasn't lost. She knew exactly what she was doing. And I realized, it was time I started doing the same. I should have seen it coming. The way she treated money like it grew on the back of every man who cared for her. Still, nothing prepared me for the day I checked my emergency fund, something I'd saved over months of skipped coffees and freelance nights, and found it nearly wiped. At first I thought it was fraud. But the transaction description was crystal clear: AL Boutique, designer purchase. Almost 200,000 rupees. I walked into the living room holding the bank alert in my hand like a cracked mirror. Aliza was lounging in her robe, sipping oat milk and watching a makeup tutorial. "Did you take money from the emergency fund?" I asked, trying to sound calm. She didn't even flinch. "Yeah. I needed something nice. I've been feeling so emotionally drained lately." "Aliza, that fund was for hospital visits. Or layoffs. Not handbags." She scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. You make it sound like I bought a yacht." I stood there stunned. She had no remorse, just entitlement disguised as self-care. That's when I realized this wasn't about temporary laziness or stress. She saw me as a service. A resource. Nothing more. Later that week, I had a huge job interview presentation for a company I admired. I asked her, genuinely hoping, for 5 minutes to review my slides. She glanced at them, then tossed her phone aside with an exaggerated groan. "I'm not your secretary, Zaid. I'm not built for this corporate stuff. You know that." That was it. I smiled. Just enough to not start a fight. But inside, something uncoiled. Quietly, cleanly. Like the last thread snapping from a worn-out shirt. I felt no urge to explain myself anymore. No desire to plead for support from someone who never truly offered it. That same night, while staring at the ceiling in silence, I got a call from Umar, an old college friend turned venture capitalist. He had a proposition. "Zaid, I need someone who can run code and build trust. We're launching a fintech app. Small team. Big backing. I want you in. But it's in Islamabad. Can you move?" I didn't blink. "I'm in." No permission. No announcements. No heart-to-heart. Just quiet resolve. I stared at the ceiling a moment longer, my chest light for the first time in months. This time I wouldn't beg to be seen. I'd simply disappear, and let her feel the absence of what she never respected. There's an art to leaving quietly. I started the next day. Not with a suitcase or a dramatic goodbye, but with a spreadsheet. I listed everything I needed to reclaim. My bank accounts, personal subscriptions, medical files, investment access, even my Spotify login. I began packing at night when she was asleep, folding clothes with the precision of a surgeon, labeling each box in small letters and stashing them in a locker at a friend's place across town. I removed my name from all the shared accounts: electricity, Wi-Fi, Netflix. Bit by bit, I disappeared from the ecosystem I had built with my own hands. I gave the landlord a clean 20-day notice. He was confused. "You two okay?" he asked. I just smiled. "Just a personal shift. I'll be out quietly." The days passed like nothing was happening. I cooked for her like I always did, kept things light. I joked about useless office meetings, offered her snacks, even suggested we do something special for our anniversary. She lit up. "Finally. You're being romantic again." It felt surreal, watching her laugh, plan outfits, and scroll Pinterest for table decor, completely unaware she was dining in a space that would soon be emptied of me. As part of my plan, I built a digital folder, organized, polite, clinical. It contained the apartment keys, Wi-Fi password, even the contact for the local plumber. I titled it, "For You, Since You're So Emotionally Invested." It was the only passive-aggressive thing I allowed myself, but even that felt like poetry. I didn't argue. Didn't confront. I just observed. How she danced around the kitchen to music while I knew our lease would be terminated in under 3 weeks. How she ordered clothes online using my card while my relocation was already booked. How she thanked me for being patient with her journey, while I drafted my resignation letter from the job she never respected. She had no idea. And that's what made it powerful. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's measured in silence. In restraint. In the calmness of knowing they'll walk into a storm they never thought possible, because they assumed you'd always stay. I wasn't staying. I was just setting the stage. And when the curtain fell, she wouldn't even remember the last line I said, because I wasn't going to say it. Day 19. I woke up before the sun, before the birds even considered stirring. The room was still and dark, save for the faint glow of my phone screen as I checked the moving van's ETA. Everything was ready, every item boxed, every drawer emptied, every goodbye already said in my own quiet way. I took one last look around. The home we had shared was stripped of everything but echoes and shadows. In the kitchen, I placed the small envelope with the printed folder titled, For you, since you're so emotionally invested. Inside was the key, the landlord's contact, the receipts she never looked at, and the letter I wrote days earlier, my final truth wrapped in calmness. I walked out without slamming the door. That evening she got the email. Subject: Final walkthrough inspection. Tomorrow 11 a.m. From Mr. Kamal, landlord. She probably read it twice. Then a third time. I imagine her sitting up on the couch in confusion, then standing, panic rising with each breath. Her first call came at 7:43 p.m. Second at 7:46. Then a stream of them. Back to back. I didn't answer any. I watched the screen light up again and again as I sat in my new apartment in Islamabad, bare walls, mattress on the floor, takeout container in hand, but peace like I hadn't felt in months. She finally returned to the house after dark, and what she saw wasn't anger. It wasn't vengeance. It was absence. Rooms hollowed out. Drawers emptied. Cabinets clean. And in the center of the kitchen counter, the folder like a quiet obituary to a relationship that had already died long before I left. She opened it. The note inside read, "Thanks for your emotional labor. It inspired me to chase peace. You said your presence was work enough, so I decided to do the real work elsewhere. No curses. No insults. No blame. Just acknowledgement." I imagine her standing there, stunned, clutching the paper like it might answer the questions forming too late. She likely called again, messaged, maybe even tried to twist it into betrayal. But what she never realized is this. I didn't leave to hurt her. I left because she never once asked why I stayed. Islamabad was quieter, cleaner, colder, and somehow kinder. I poured myself into the startup like it was oxygen. Long nights, whiteboards filled with algorithms, coffee cups crowding my desk. But for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying someone else's weight while doing it. My energy was mine. My wins were mine. My peace was finally mine. The app took off faster than we predicted. By month 4 we were profitable. By month 6 we had angel investors circling. It wasn't just success, it was clarity, purpose. And for the first time I had space to breathe, to think, even to feel something close to happiness. That's when I met Alina. She was direct, passionate, grounded. She ran her own content agency and didn't ask for permission to chase her ambitions. We clicked over chai and startup memes. She never expected me to carry her, she walked beside me. The contrast was blinding. Meanwhile, whispers about Eliza trickled through mutual circles. She'd moved back in with my sister, claiming she needed time to realign her energy. Unemployed, moody, still allergic to anything resembling effort. Her Instagram became a gallery of vague quotes. If they can't handle your fire, let them burn elsewhere. Abandoned by boys too weak to stand beside a queen. Classic Eliza, romanticizing her own downfall, rewriting the story where she's always the misunderstood hero. Then one day a mutual friend sent me a screenshot from her story. White text on a black background. "He used me and left. I gave him my soul. Men are trash." I stared at it for a long time. There was no anger. Just disbelief at how far she was willing to bend reality to avoid accountability. I opened my messages. "Zaid, you gave nothing. I just finally realized my worth." No follow-up. No mic drop. Just truth. She saw the message. Never replied. That silence told me everything. She hadn't changed. She hadn't learned. But I had. I had built something from the ashes she left. Something strong. Something real. And this time, no one was going to call it emotional labor. Sometimes people expect revenge to be explosive, shouting, slamming doors, dramatic exits. But the most powerful kind? It's quiet. Measured. It looks like peace to the world and feels like freedom to the one who earned it. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's the silence when they realize you've stopped explaining your worth. That silence became my anthem. I now run a growing fintech company. I mentor young entrepreneurs through local incubators, teach part-time at a coding boot camp, and speak on panels about resilience in business. Whenever someone asks about the hardest leadership lesson I've learned, I smile and say, know when you're building with a partner, and when you're dragging dead weight. I never name her. Not once. Because this isn't about her anymore. It's about the version of me that let someone treat love like a service plan. The version that excused laziness because it wore the mask of emotional depth. That part of me needed to die so something better could live. Now I work with people who show up. Who match energy. Who understand that support isn't passive presence. It's participation. Occasionally I'll get tagged in some mutual friend's photo where Eliza's in the background, still with the same pout, still posting quotes, still spinning tales. It no longer stings. In fact, I barely react. Because I know I escaped. I escaped the slow erosion of self-worth. The constant gaslighting. The emotional manipulation painted as love. What I found on the other side was far more valuable than closure. I found clarity. And that's what I try to pass on to others. Not bitterness, not caution, but clarity. When people show you who they are, believe them. And when someone says their love is enough but never lifts a finger to help you build, ask yourself, is this love, or just entitlement wearing perfume? Because real love shows up. Real love contributes. And real love never forces you to carry both the dream and the dreamer. Her love wasn't enough. Because it never came with effort. And love without effort? That's not love. It's just comfortable selfishness.